All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is John Milgram. I'm Director of External Affairs for the DEP. I am essentially the public and government face of DEP for the watershed region, the 2,000 square miles, everything from the Bronx to the end of Delaware County. So I deal with local governments, I deal with communities, I deal with the large capital projects we have going on and standard operations of the reservoirs, as well as all of our recreation programs. But key is I am a director. I'm senior staff. I have decision-making authority. I'm part of the senior staff team that runs the watershed and the water supply operations for the city of New York. That said, the spelling error is mine. Externa apparently is a skin lotion, but anyway, I don't know if all of you have been to the planning board presentations. We've been already through one planning board process. We have more to go. It's a rather complicated project internally for us, for DEP. We've broken it down to 4 separate contracts for different parts of this project. Ultimately, for you, and kind of how I view it, it's one project. It's a long-term, $2 billion capital program to build a deep rock tunnel from Kensico Reservoir to our UV treatment plant over in Eastview by 100C. So let me go through this presentation. I'm always open to questions. We'll be open to all your questions at the end as well. Also at the end, I do have a one-page handout. I know the town has this on their website. I have some business cards. That's my direct line to my office. I'm usually based in Kingston. I also have an office here, Sutton Park, right on Columbus Avenue. But my cell phone, my email, and my direct office line are on that business card. I have a few more. Happy to give those out afterwards. And the last slide will include those numbers and contact information. So anyway, through the agenda, we'll do team introductions. So right after I go through the agenda, I want to introduce who I have with me here. We'll just give you a quick overview of the entire system and how Kensico and this area integrates into it, just for context. I'll explain the need for this project and why we have to do it. Then also explain the court order we have requiring us to do this and setting some fairly strict milestones out of the Eastern District Federal Court. We'll give you an overview of the phases of the project and essentially when different parts will happen and where. Some of it at Kensico, some of it at Eastview. And then we'll do a quick refresher on what we did with the secret process, talk about some of the mitigations we've done for noise, forestry work, just the environmental impacts, social and directly on nature itself, traffic as well, and give you a few shots, presentation shots of what it will look like when it's finally complete. So anyway, with me for just team agenda or team introductions, Matthew Warren, who's sitting, is not at the front table, but Matt Warren's our Deputy Director for Water Treatment Operations, which essentially puts him in charge of Kensico. Also, I know he's got his hands in the alum treatment plant a little further north, the UV treatment at Eastview.
I know Carl since he's been here, but obviously before Carl too, and I've been helping support DEP's efforts and be a partner with the town for the past 17 years that I've worked for the DEP in different capacities. So some of you may know me, have seen me, or at other planning board meetings. So I don't have a card here because usually I'm just on my cell phone, but I can give it to you. Just come up to me afterwards. I'll give you my contact information. So when we talk here, just the difference is, so I run the treatment operations, so for the treatment of the city's supply, and the team that's with me and Kevin's team is the one that's going to be helping oversee the project, but obviously I'm responsible for what goes on up there, and Sal will be the first to tell me that, so I will make sure that we do the right thing there all the time, because we've got a lot going on. So I'll go back to Dan maybe next. Okay.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Dan Michaud. So certain of you saw me last night at the board meeting, but at the planning board meetings, I'm on the design side, so with the team up here, with the permitting, the environmental impact statement, the design progression until the point where it hits construction. I'm responsible for making sure we get it to that point and that we have a really good program put in place so that when it goes to construction, it's as seamless as possible, it stays on schedule, that we have a program to interact with the stakeholders, including the community. And John here is really key to that tonight. So make sure you get John's card, and if you have questions, he's the guy you want to ask, but I'm also available, as is Matt and all of us. You know, we're going to hang around afterwards and talk. So think of questions, and please bring them all. Lorraine, you want to say hello? And Lorraine Farrell here, who's our head of permitting.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Farrell. I'm with the DEP's Bureau of Engineering, Design, and Construction. And for this project, I'm working on the permits, coordinating with the town what permits we need, the site plan approvals that we need for the contracts. And yes, working with this team. Kevin?
I'm Kevin Ellenwood. I'm a Deputy Portfolio Manager, also with the Bureau of Engineering, Design, and Construction. So I'm in charge of all of the design contracts and the construction contracts for this project. And this is the only project. It's a massive project. This is the only one that I'm working on. So I'm the I'm the single point of contact on the design and construction side. And I from start to finish of the project, I provide that continuity there.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Phil Simmons. I'm the Managing Director for the Bureau of Environmental Planning and Analysis, Environmental Impact Analysis, and Technical Review. In short, I'm the EIS guy, so I'm the one that is responsible for making certain that the environmental impact statement is produced in accordance with our secret rules and regulations.
All right, so good team to answer any questions that may come up afterwards. Actually, they're superb in their fields. So just quick overview of the entire watershed system. We do provide water from the Catskills to about 10 million New Yorkers from Ulster County, Orange County, Putnam. About 90% of Westchester is from the New York City water system. Kensico and the small kind of a postage stamp reservoir down right off the thruway before you get into the city, that's Hillview. Those two reservoirs are actually part of the Del-Cat system, or Cat-Del system. They really don't get much water from rain. It's all from the Catskills shipped via 2 aqueducts right down to Kensico. So 99% of the water in Kensico is from the large reservoirs that we have up in the Catskills. And then all the water from Kensico ultimately goes down to Hillview before it goes into the city tunnels. In the Croton system, which I think many of you are also familiar with, is the New Croton Reservoir. That's a separate 12 reservoirs, much smaller than the ones in the Catskills, the oldest surface water upstate system from the city. That is a filtered supply. Everything from Kensico, from the Catskills, is unfiltered. We are the largest municipal water supply in the country. So operational need for KEC, I think many of you remember when we built the UV treatment plant over in Eastview. Before that plant, we had 2 tunnels leaving Kensico, just like we have the 2 tunnels coming in, the Catskill Aqueduct and the Delaware Aqueduct. Delaware Aqueduct, for the entire 85 miles of its existence, it's the largest tunnel in the world. The Catskill is mostly a surface. It's called cut and cover. Cut a ditch, build the concrete tunnel, cover it with overlayment of dirt, grass, and plant on it. So you have those 2 tunnels coming down from the Catskills to Kensico. There were 2. There's the Delaware, and the Catskill continued from Kensico down to Hillview. The UV treatment plant, because of elevations, we didn't have the pressure anymore in the Catskill Aqueduct to provide the sufficient quantities ultimately and resiliency. from Kensico to UV. So this would be the second redundant tunnel, replacing that section of the Kensico aqueduct. This tunnel, however, as opposed to being at the surface level, I think some of you have seen the Kensico aqueduct around the Kensico. There are some areas where you can see it by the jail down in Eastview. This tunnel that we're going to be building is going to be 300 to 400 feet underground in bedrock, deep rock tunnel. We're required to essentially the UV treatment plant, as well as kind of the driving force behind this project, is something called the EPA's long-term 2 rule. It's a requirement. It has a series of requirements for treated water. The water in the Catskills is what we call raw water. It's not potable, shall we say. It has to be treated. We have to add the chlorine, UV treatment, before it's considered safe to drink. Still hugely high quality water from the Catskills, and I'm sure there are plenty of fishermen who've taken a sip or two over the years. So bottom line, we don't have any more than the 1 tunnel now going from Kensico to the UV treatment plant, and that's always between 90 and 100% of the city's supply is that transportation corridor. So simultaneous to this project, this is a long-term capital project. It will be about 10 years long from the very start, which has already happened with some tree clearing. Started a little bit earlier this year. To the very end, the commissioning of this tunnel is scheduled for, I think, 2034. At the same time, we'll be doing a similar extended project at Hillview. We have new chemical addition facilities we're going to be building down there. All of this work has to be done in preparation for us putting a, believe it or not, a cover over Hillview Reservoir. We have to cover Hillview. I think we're still in the design phase, trying to determine what kind of cover it will be. But to operate Hillview, while we are building a cover, we will have to empty one of the 2 basins. It's a little bit trickier operation. Hillview is really 1 day's supply. If we don't keep a balance coming in, when the pressure going out, it can be problematic. The second tunnel and the capacity that it will have, I think is about 2.5 billion gallons a day, the new one that we're going to be building, will give us that additional pressure and redundancy necessary to make sure that we can do single basin operations during that construction project. So the cover is supposed to be done by court order by 2048. So welcome to our world of planning. It has a series of predecessor projects that have to get done, and each of them take a fairly extraordinary amount of time, from EIS to the planning, design phases, and the actual work itself. So again, we have a consent decree. This was the EPA under their long-term Rule 2, requiring us to put a cover on Hillview Reservoir. Essentially, they want, and there's sense to this, once water's been treated, once it's ready to be in the faucets, it should be enclosed. It shouldn't be exposed to the elements. We do a lot of work making sure that waterfowl do not approach Hillview, or we get them away as quickly as possible. Other invasive species we're very cautious of down at Kensico, as well as Hillview. So that's the thinking behind the cover, which was signed by the Eastern District of the United States Court in 2019. So this gives you just a kind of an overview of the tunnel alignment. You'll see over on the purple circle area, that's the Kensico campus. That's right here, where we do most of our treatment currently. And then the green circle, that's the Eastview. The orange line between them, that's the new tunnel alignment, again, between 300 and 400 feet underground in the deep rock to transport water directly from Kensico to the UV treatment plant. So to consider, the UV treatment plant can actually process about 2.6 billion gallons of water per day. With just the Delaware operating between Kensico, we can't even meet the UV treatment plant's abilities. And that's, granted, it's far more than the city uses now. The city used to use about 1.6, 1.7 billion a day back in the 80s. Now we're down to 1 to 1.1 a day. I think the other day when it was very hot, we were at 1.3. So some conservation measures have been put in place, has reduced it, but there is still growth. And we are trying to plan for the future. So the tunnel we're going to be building, ultimately the finished diameter interior is 27 feet, pretty much wide enough for 2 freight trains. The lining of the tunnel, the concrete lining, once you bore through it, dig through the rock, we'll have a tunnel boring machine. That's a kind of a cartoon illustration of one. Tunnel boring machines end up being about 400 feet long. They act kind of a train. We build a track behind it as it's going through, and then it has various attachments with conveyors to bring the rock that's been ground off. The liner of the tunnel that will line the inside of the rock hole that we drill is going to be 24 inches thick. There will be shafts, I think 2 at one end, 1 at the other. Each shaft is going to be 300 to 400 feet. It has to be as wide as the tunnel, obviously, because we have to lower the tunnel boring machine down, and obviously for future access to the tunnel will be necessary at some point. Interestingly, the Delaware Aqueduct we haven't emptied or accessed by human for 75, 80 years. The last time was, I think, 1956. This year we're going to shut it down to do a fairly massive repair project up in Newburgh. We built a new tunnel under the Hudson's, first tunnel since the Lincoln Tunnel was built in the city, and that we have to do the final connection this winter and shut off the Delaware Aqueduct for 8 months, which is a phenomenally complicated project that will be simultaneous to the start of this project. So we have essentially 3 connecting tunnels we'll be building to the connecting buildings at Kensico. We'll have to build shafts, again, at Kensico for the water to go down into the tunnel, shafts for it to come back up, some other connecting apparatus, a new screen chamber at the Kensico campus, and we will detail for each of the phases of the construction what projects are going to be done. And the tunnel, importantly, I think for many of the people in the Kensico area, residential areas, we are digging the tunnel starting at Eastview. So 99% of the tunnel digging won't be a process for Kensico. It won't be noticed until it finally breaks through here. So all the rock goes back to Eastview for being hauled out. So that's the direction we're going to be using tunnel boring machine, not starting here at Kensico. As long as I've known this project, has been Eastview to Kensico tunnel boring. So we do have to build a shaft at Kensico's, and that's that also is lined very wide, between 27 and 30 feet, finished diameter. Okay, so Kensico campus, again, it confuses me. I know that even the planning board has been trying to wrestle with this, but we broke this project up into 4 separate contracts. So essentially 4 phases, separately designed, but they all fit together. It's one project being done by 4 contractors, each with their own subcontractors. So again, we're going to have a new screen chamber building, screens. We have these moving screens which keep driftwood and fish from going into the pipes or into the aqueducts. We're not a filtered system. Filter's a whole different story. The screens, though, do keep the big stuff from getting in. We do have an electrical building that we'll be building here at Kensico. We are relocating Westlake Drive, which is kind of the pothole-filled road right in the middle of the campus right now. And I do have good renderings of what this will look like. We will have a new security entrance right by Columbus Avenue. And we'll be modifying the Catskill Aqueduct's upper effluent chamber. That's where the water goes from the Kensico into the Catskill itself, and creating a new shaft there, and modifying the chemical feed system at the big building that's there right now, the very large building. We call that Shaft 18. That's where most of the chemical addition is done. Over at Eastview, separately, we do have the building, you can see that kind of block shape there. I think it's going to be about 46 feet tall in total. We're showing the location where it's going to be. There's really not any residential in this area, so residential impacts during the construction will be It should be fairly minor, but it will be done simultaneously with the work that's going on here at Kensico. That's where the new tunnel aqueduct will be coming up and then connecting into the UV treatment plant. So just to kind of visualize this, here these colored bars are the different contracts, again, for the one simultaneous project. And we're going to go through the scope of each contract separately, and I'll bring this chart back up at the end of that, just to kind of reiterate that a lot of this is just going to be overlapping each other. It's one project, but I just want you to kind of see the separate elements of the contracts themselves. And I want to bring Kevin up to go through that. He's got all the fine details of contract one. We'll try to get through this as quickly as possible, and again, shoot out any questions you have during, that's fine too, and save some for the end as well. So Kevin? Good.
Thanks, John. Okay, so the first phase of work we're going to be starting just down the street, just down the hill at our Kensico campus. It's called Kensico Site Prep. With this contract, we're preparing the site for all the future work at this site. A lot of words here. Okay, so this is all the work that's going to be happening during this first contract. The staging area preparation, so that's getting parking and work areas ready for the first contractor, but then also the rest of the contractors. They'll be setting up trailers for us and for their staff as well. And then we're going to be clearing and grubbing. So the tree removal for the entirety of the project, our goal when we went through the planning process was to push it off as late as we can. And to some extent, we can do that. Some of the, one of the later projects I'll talk about, shoreline stabilization, we're not removing any of those trees. But unfortunately, the vast majority of trees that we have to remove for this project, we need to remove right away. So that's one of the activities that we'll be doing during this first contract. But we do, I'll talk about it in one of the later contracts, but how we replace those trees. The next one is management of excavated material. So we're going to be, when we build the road, we're going to be removing soil. We're also going to be removing soil for one of the big buildings there. I'll talk about that a bit later. And our goal is to place all of that soil back on site. So we want to minimize or eliminate any trucking of material off-site, so minimize impacts coming off. And that's our goal. Keep everything, keep all the soil we're moving, keep it on our site. We're also going to be relocating Westlake Drive from where it is now to the northern part of the property. And the goal there is that once we've completed that and once the town has inspected and accepted it, we turn that over to public use, and then we can close the existing Westlake Drive. And that we're going to do that so we can separate our construction activity from public traffic. And then also, as Matt said, this is one of the facilities. It's a water supply facility. He has to keep operating that. So that existing Westlake Drive, that becomes our construction entrance, and we can separate our staff from Matt's staff, who has to continue to operate the facility. During this first phase, we're also going to be installing a construction fence along Columbus Avenue per the town code, and then in subsequent contracts, we'll look to improve the appearance of that. As part of the construction of relocated Westlake Drive, we're also going to be building a parking lot that'll be at the intersection of Columbus Avenue and the relocated Westlake Drive. So it's basically right at Highclere. And then that would be conveyed to the school district for their use and their maintenance. We'll also be constructing temporarily an operations entrance for Matt. So presently they use Westlake Drive. We're going to construct an entrance for them near Lakeview Avenue. So that would not be for our construction traffic, that would be for operations use, so operations staff and their deliveries. We're also going to be constructing the electrical building for the site. That'll become our one source for providing power throughout the entire site. And then we'll have some stormwater systems. For this first contract, our contractor intends to work one shift a day, Monday to Friday. And that's, he plans to work 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. That's his plan. You know, we have to allow for occasions where he might need to work into second shift, but he does not plan to do that at this point. Okay, so that's everything that I just spoke to. Here you can see it. So we're going to work basically from north to south, so from left to right on this screen. So the first things we'll do is build that road. Yes, sorry. I can, oop, maybe I can't. Thanks, John. Okay, I'll orient. So the bottom of the screen is Columbus Avenue, and it goes the north side. The left side is north. So if you see the trees on the left, that's the Valhalla High School property.
Right here is the high school. The football field, I believe, right back here. Kensico Elementary, Town Hall.
And so now we're facing, so the reservoir is in the back, the top of that slide. So first we will build the relocated Westlake Drive. And that's going to be, it's a little hard to see there, but it kind of makes its way past, we have the Con Ed transmission lines, so we kind of snake our way past those two towers.
Right, this is the current Westlake Drive, so it's a public road. It does have quite a few potholes in it right now. But this is how you can access the north end and the communities up in there. It does curve around the back along the shoreline. Sorry, I'll super quick. And this is going to be the new relocated road here. So taking this public road, which is here now, moving it to here, and then this will be the construction of it.
Yeah. Right. So the 7 p.m. that would be the start of construction. So the crews coming, they would be arriving before. Did I say 7 p.m.? Okay. Yeah. No. I want to be home by 7 p.m. Thanks, Matt. No. Yeah. No. I just said no. We're seriously just the one day shift. So they would be arriving before that, and so they're mustering, they're signing in, and. So we're hoping to avoid that. The blasting we'll talk about later. It is a possibility for this first contract. It's not definite, but it is possible. But it would not be happening at 7 in the morning. We have to load explosives in, and it takes quite a while. I think John's going to talk about that a little bit. But no, it's usually later in the morning or very early afternoon if when it comes to blasting. No, so that was during the EIS process. We had traffic engineers do an evaluation, and the addition of our traffic to that area did not, impact the service in the area. And I know that this has been a significant topic for these public hearings, and I know we're particularly sensitive in that area. We've gone through and done another traffic analysis. Not the analysis, but we've done additional traffic counts, and we're doing the analysis now, and And we hope to make that available to the town to review next month. But we do not anticipate any impact from our traffic in that area. Yes. Yes.
Speaking about this area over here, this road, this is the current existing road right here. This road will replace this and still access for that residential area.
Right, so the only part of West Lake Drive that gets shut is the part that comes through our property. Right, so.
Not a road current. There's no road current. That's going to be a new road.
Right here. What's going to keep the geese and the fishermen?
Fisherman's allowed. This reservoir will not. No, this is not finished water.
So I'm going to cover geese to a small extent in a future slide, like maybe 4 or 5 slides from now. I'm going to.
That process, it's a little complicated. Hillview, another reservoir 15 miles from here in Yonkers, that's where we have to cover. So, sorry. The Kensico, we're not covered. It's going to be still the Kensico. This project is, for the most part, aside from some site work, a few buildings that have to be done, the majority of this project's an underground tunnel. I don't want the geese enjoying it too much. 3 pounds of goose a day, but it's truly. So, but the fishermen, the reservoir will stay open for fishing and recreation activities that are permitted throughout. So. Hillview. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yes. That will be covered in 20 years. Yeah. Probably me too. But actually, let's.
We've achieved all the credits for treatment, virus, giardia, and cryptosporidium. So when it hits Hillview and comes up in that basin, that's finished water, and the rule said you can't have that open basin. So we've deferred it for a long time, and we're going to finish these predecessor projects before we get to that. So they're going to mandate that we cover it.
few 100 billion gallons of water. So, all good there. And that's the water that comes down to Kensico. But if we can just, let's
Sure.
keep going, make sure we get through the slide deck, and we're happy to.
Okay, so we have now built the road. We're going to start working on the stormwater structures. That's the RWLD pond and Catskill pond. And then we're going to be grading the site, generally left to right, north to south. And then if you look up in the top area, it says site prep, clearing, grading. We're going to be doing some of the, I mentioned that before, we're going to be doing some of the excavation for the screen chamber building. You'll see that in a little while. And then we'll be placing it on site in the aerator. So if you can picture our site now, it's a bit of a depression on either side of Westlake Drive. So we'll be using that to place the excavated material. And the goal is not to have this giant mountain, but to have something that looks like the natural surrounding area when we're all said and done. And then finally, it's a little hard to see, but way up in the back, the electrical building, we're going to be bringing electrical lines underground up Westlake Drive to that building and then distributing it to the buildings on site. And then finally, that curvy road, that will be our temporary operations entrance. It will come to the intersection of Columbus and Lakeview. And again, that's for Matt's staff and deliveries, not for our construction vehicles. Yeah, so when we, I don't know if Phil gets into this, but when we went through our assessment of our impacts on the community, we took into account some of the proposed development that was planned in the area, including that. So we accounted for that for our future conditions. Yeah, so we took that into account.
Yeah, we would. Sure. Well, in terms of the traffic, that is every time we do a project, we've been doing these for decades, we do a very significant traffic count study and essentially warrant analysis on traffic control devices. So part of the EIS that was done, the environmental impact statement that was done, which I think was finalized last year, but it was a multi-year process, did essentially anticipate locations of the roads and traffic during construction, as well as the roads that are going to be existing. So I know we did go through much of that. We did bring up the fire department today when we met with the town, including Sal, the building inspector, the town engineer. We do need to meet with you. We do want to discuss access for the fire and emergency crews during the various phases of construction, because access will change from obviously a construction access site, and we do have fencing between, and there are secure sites for the operations, and there will be secure sites for the construction. So we just want to ensure that we all are on the same page and can potentially drill and shift the drills for the new design, or at least get it through the construction phases and ultimately the new design. So. No, sure I can. Yes, at the onset for contract one, the intention is Lakeview is going to be the truck access to the site, to and from the site. Yes. There's a few curves. There's a hill. There's a connection up at the top of Lakeview where it meets the other. Frankly, we have looked through this area in depth for routes in and out. It's not an easy area to find routes. From the north, there's a bridge over Columbus when it curves around before it gets back onto the sawmill, which some trucks won't be able to clear. To the south through Valhalla, very hilly. It's a tight area. Even trying to circumvent Columbus, very residential area, tight access. There's really not much. This has been the truck access route for ages, for all the deliveries and operations we do at the site. That's what was used for the EIS, and that's going to be the Pardon me? Phil, what was do you remember the total?
For the Kensico campus, going to this site, construction work in the EIS, we identified, we work with the designers to come up with estimates, conservative estimates, amount of trucks that come for the day, and also how they would come in and arrive throughout the day by hour. And with the magnitude of trucks we're talking about is single digits. The worst case, we're talking about like 10, 12 trucks in an hour, but most hours it'll be single digit activities. At the max is an hour, but for most of the time, most activities, we're talking. This is the peak of the hour, so most of the times, the projections are a handful of trucks, counting 0, 5, 4, that level of trucks. There would be some hours where we had assumed upwards of that magnitude. But that's not to say that that's every hour. When we work with the designers, they come up with projections by the hour, and there might be an hour where there's about 10 trucks, but most of the other hours we're talking about a level like 0 or 2 or 4. Mm-hmm. Well,
quick thing, we already have trucks, heavy trucks, accessing the site on a routine basis. We have chemical deliveries routinely. We've been using Lakeview for those deliveries. So, pardon me? Mm-hmm. No, of course, but you were asking if we've actually looked at Lakeview. Yes, we have. We've been using it for heavy truck deliveries at the site previously, and we looked at it through the whole environmental impact statement. So, we've considered an adequate route to the site for the purpose. Yes. So, anyway, yes. If we can just try to get through. This is a fairly long presentation. Don't want to. Oh no, we're here and we'll answer all these questions. So. Okay. Well, we're here now. We've been at the planning board a few times. Okay. Yes. Oh, it's going to be a variety of materials. Kevin, I think you're best for the construction end of that, what they might be carrying. Great.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, for this first contract, we're not talking about hauling rock or soil off. We're looking to keep it on site. So it would be deliveries of concrete or materials. When I eventually get to the building of the shaft and the tunnel, that yes, we would be trucking off rock. So it's very fine. It comes up completely broken apart, but we would be hauling off rock from the shaft from this location. No. So eventually, when we put this new tunnel online, we would be using chlorine, but we're already using chlorine from shaft 18, right? And so that'll continue, and it's either one or the other. It's not like we've got two tunnels, we double the chlorine. That doesn't change. We're using one tunnel or the other, so nothing really with operations changes. Chlorine, sorry? Okay. Okay, thank you. But yes, but that's not part of the construction. That would be part of the operations, and operations would be no different than it is today. Okay, so that phase of the work, that's what we're starting now. The next phase of the work is construction of the tunnel and the shafts. So at our Eastview site, that's the other side of the Sprain, just north of Grasslands. We'll be doing similar thing there. We'll be prepping the site for the other contracts. From the construction of the UV facility, we had stockpiled soil. We've removed much of it, but there is a small amount that we still have to remove, and that'll be one of the first activities we do. We'll construct we call it the uptake shaft, but it's the end of the tunnel. We'll construct the tunnel itself, and we're going to be constructing this tunnel from Eastview to Kensico. So that means that we're going to be mining it, and all of that material will come out at Eastview, not here at Kensico. So the work hours for that phase of the work at Eastview, when we're doing site work, again, we're talking one shift, Monday to Friday. Once we shift to shaft work, we'll be drilling and blasting. At some point when we get deep enough, we'd like to shift to 2 shifts a day, and it's not blasting twice a day. It's a series of drilling into the rock, loading in the explosives. You have your shot, and then you're working on cleaning out all that material. So, we do one shift. We would do it's called mucking, removing all of the material, and then we would be drilling, and then blasting, and then so on and so forth. But we follow town code for blasting. There's only certain times of day that we can do that blasting. John is going to get into this. And then once we get down over there, 400 feet in the ground, over here, 300 feet in the ground, then we do a little bit more blasting so we can construct our tunnel boring machine. It's this massive train with a cutter head on the front. And we start mining. And that's a slow process. We just grind our way from there to here, 300 to 400 feet underground. And we'd like to do that 3 shifts. And if we didn't tell you where we are in that line, you would never know. It's very noisy down there, but up when we're topside, you're not going to hear anything. It's so far down in the ground where it's a deep rock tunnel. We're in rock, so at this level, there's no vibration. So we won't hear anything, we won't feel anything, and that goes for the properties that we tunnel underneath, mine underneath. It's going to take a few years, a couple years. Yeah. 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 Yep. When does it go? Where does it go? Well, that's a bit of means and methods. There's state requirements on. There are state requirements based on what you're pulling out of the ground, what you can do with it. So it's not going to go on site. We're not going to take it from Eastview to Kensico. It'll have to be trucked off site and disposed of by the contractor. The contractor will have to determine a location for that. Yes. So that contract, we've not registered that contract yet, so we don't have a contractor for that work yet. But we'll work that out with that contractor. Okay, so we will be temporarily stockpiling material on site. So we bring it up the shaft, we'll have it conveyed over and stockpile, and then we have to remove as we go. So we store up a little bit, the trucks come in, and they take it away. And then finally, we'll have improvements to Walker Road. We'll need to create an entrance for us for our trailers. And then we'll also, at the beginning of the job, we'll mill and repave the entire road from Grasslands up to Dana Road. And then after we're all done, we'll do it again. After we've beat up the road, we go and mill and repave it again. And then here at the Kensico site, yeah. So the improvement, it's just typical road work, just milling it, so taking it down a level, repaving it, and then just putting in some striping. It's not a major undertaking. Right, so we're on the, I'm talking about Eastview, which is it's west of the Sprainbrook, north of Grasslands. Okay, so yeah, about as far, so a mirror image of Bradhurst, that far away to the west. I didn't hear, could you say that? I didn't hear the question. Right. Yeah. So for the tunneling, so we're not going to be blasting. We're going to be tunneling. So we're going to be grinding it, and we're going to be grinding through what we call competent rock. We're also hundreds of feet below ground, so there won't be any impact near the surface for what we're doing or afterwards. And then for the blasting that is true, we'll have blasting at 2 points. So here at Kensico, exactly. So we enforce strict requirements on the contractor while we're going through that. So, we look at vibration, we look at overpressure, so how much pressure each of the blasts creates. And so we have a rigorous monitoring program that gets vetted by the town staff, and the town will be with us for the blast. We're going to be required to provide blast reports afterwards that gives all the readings to make sure that we're within tolerance for what's acceptable for these blasts. Yeah, Jim.
Part of the planning and initial design phase of this includes geologic studies. And I know Dan's very familiar with this area, but we're familiar with the rock, the different formations throughout the Hudson Valley region, as well as where faults are. So that is part of the analysis. Dan, do you want to add something to that, if you could? I mean, that's a valid question. We all felt that earthquake out of Ramapo a couple 2 months ago.
We felt it too. I was in Kingston, the building shook. So the temperature of the ground is 55 degrees. I think you're asking, I think I heard the temperature. Typical groundwater stays constant throughout the year, so the temperature doesn't vary. The rock here is Manhattan schist. It's a very competent metamorphic rock. The city has done a lot of tunneling. In the city, we've tunneled through the same exact rock formation. So this rock formation goes down into New York, and those tunnels are also bedded in the Manhattan schist. We're very familiar with the formation. The blasts that Kevin mentioned are very short, instantaneous, highly engineered, minimal vibration extension blasts. So they don't just go boom like you might think of in your mind of what's going on here. It's more like if you see it's been on TV recently, it's more like caps in succession. So dot, 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 and that's kind of how the blast goes over seconds, right? And within a few minutes it's done. And they'll do 8 feet vertical, and then they need a lot of time to get an excavator and dig that rock out and re-drill and redo blasts. You won't hear anything for a long time, and then the blast will be planned. This formation, we're up in Newburgh tunneling. We've just done shafts 700 feet deep, similar diameter. We've tunnel boring machined under the Hudson River. We've had no issues with rock movement on any scale other than in the shaft itself. A boulder might move when a blast goes off, but that's to be expected. But nothing that extends off-site. So it's fairly common practice what we're doing throughout the world, and this rock is very competent rock. So.
Thanks.
May I take it or you got it?
Yes, I missed the second question. How are we going to measure, and then what, and then the siren? Yeah, okay. So we will do it's a pre-blast survey. So we survey, we draw a circle around a certain distance, and we'll do, a survey of all the area, and then we set up a blast plan. The contractor will bring in a blast expert to lay out this plan, which we will get vetted by the town. That's all well in advance. And then when we get closer, we send out notifications, we notify the town, and then as we're approaching, we'll have 3 signals. So there'll be a blast that says that, bad use of words, a siren, a noise that will be to let us know that a blast is imminent. And at that point, we'll be using town of Mount Pleasant police to help with traffic. So we'll block traffic. The whole thing is we're talking just minutes. The whole thing. So first blast, it's imminent. Second blast, it's about to happen. We'll have the shot. It's not even gonna be as loud as those sirens. And then after that, we'll have another siren that it's all clear. And then the police will open up the roads, and then we'll get back to work. I don't have that answer for you. It's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I've been very close to it, and when you're very close to it, you do feel it. It doesn't knock you to the ground. You do hear it, as Dan said. It's a pop, 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 pop. But it's yeah. Right. So we put blast matting down, and that reduces the noise. It also makes sure that nothing comes out of the shaft. And then, the farther down we go, there's not that there's a big risk because it's heavily controlled by us, by the town, by the fire department. That becomes less and less. And then to your other question about what we're measuring, so as John said, vibration, we'll have vibration monitors. We'll also have inclinometers on some structures, so that's just making sure it's not. And then we also measure pressure, right? Because with this blast, there's pressure. It's called overpressure, and we have a limit on that, so we're not causing any damage to anything. And not to downplay the importance of this, but we have structures in the area, historic structures. We have an active facility, so we have a great interest in making sure that we don't break our own stuff. So we have set very strict limits on these blasts, and that's here at Kensico. Yes. Yeah.
Especially if you recall that we're going to do that gate chamber or screen chamber. Those two facilities probably do have to do some blasting with some rock outcroppings that are there as part of a site threshold. So that will be at the surface. That would be the most noticeable. Again, it's down the stone. As you go down the shaft, it becomes less noticeable further down you go. And most of it depends on the type of rock. But again, no matter how far down you go, it really does have an impact. And some of that surface blasting, even though it's far from Columbus, it's a big focus of the school. There where we've been in constant contact with the school. Frankly, I just two bodies there. So that's the school, high school, about 2 months ago on this entire project. They're aware, fascinated by it.
No, it's very clear, and when we do our noticing, we'll have an explanation of that too. It's a blast. It's a signal, and it'll be 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 3 signals. So it'll be very clear. It's very distinctive. It's not, it's not an evacuation alarm. It's very distinctive. Okay, I'm going to move forward a little bit, but just to point out that in this contract, we also will be creating a new connection. So there's a connection from our Shaft 18 to Town Supply. Presently it's just the one connection, so this contract will be setting up to create a second one. So just quickly, you can see that diamond shape. That's the screen chamber. We'll be doing soil excavation. We may be doing some blasting in that area too. And then the circle, that's where the shaft will be located. Okay, this is a little hard to see. This is the other side. I'll go through this quickly. It's not as interesting. It's very busy. But, we have, so this is grasslands here. This is Walker here, right? So grasslands, Walker up to Dana. road here, okay? And then here's the prison, and I think the emergency facilities are here, and Liberty Line is like down here-ish. So we'll have our staging area here, and we need to have a new curb cut here. We'll be doing, so that soil pile, what was a mountain, is now a molehill, and so we'll be removing that. And then we build, this is an internal road that we're building. We just need that so we can keep operating the UV facility. The shaft will be here. So we'll be mucking from here, so that's bringing out all the material from the shaft and the tunnel. And then we convey it we use a conveyor to bring it over here, small stockpile that gets removed periodically as we go, so we don't have that mountain at the end of this. And I'm going to move on from there. Any questions on that side? No, so we do work with the Gate of Heaven because we are going through there. So we've been working with them. Any of the properties that we go under, we work out agreements with them, and we've been doing that for quite a while now. We're in that process, and we would work with Gate of Heaven as well, but no impacts. No. Yeah. Okay, so it comes up in, a bucket. We'll drop it here, and then it gets loaded onto this dash line. That's actually a conveyor. It'll be enclosed, so it'll be a conveyor belt that's enclosed, so minimizes noise and dust. And then it gets dropped off here into a pile, and then this here is a contractor entrance, so they drive in, they load up their trucks, and then they truck it out, and it's gone. And again, this does not come here to Kensico. Okay, so then the third phase of work, these are a few pictures. This is the new screen chamber that we're going to be building here. This is an existing, we call it the upper effluent chamber. It's just where the water comes in from Kensico, so that's an existing one. And this is the substructure to the screen chamber, it looks like. Okay, so the third phase of the work, so we built the two shafts and the tunnel. We're going to be modifying that existing influent chamber. That's because we need to increase the capacity there. And then that third shaft that John mentioned, it's not as big as the other two. We just need a shaft there, basically because we're increasing the flow capacity. So there's water coming in. We're going to build a second way of bringing water in through that same building. We don't want to monkey with the substructure there because it's an old building, so we're going to build a second one on top of it. That shaft is just to bring those two sources of water together, so it's not even close to the magnitude of the shafts that we've been talking about. And then it gets brought to this new screen chamber. John went through that in the very beginning. And then it goes down into the downtake shaft. The water will come over to Eastview and then come back up. And then also we want to retain the Catskill. This effectively replaces the Catskill, but we want it as a backup. So, we'll be making improvements to that intake chamber. We're also going to be building a new short tunnel, from the screen chamber to the existing Catskill, and that serves as, a backup in, some terrible event. If we needed to, we could run water through the Catskill. So I don't think I have a picture of it. The tunnel that we're building, it comes in right near where the existing one is. So when we reconnect back into that existing Catskill aqueduct, it's really very close to the reservoir. So we're not really doing much with the existing Catskill. Sorry, did that answer your question? Okay. Okay, I'll just jump to that. Let me just talk to the hours. So for this one, again, site work, we're talking about one shift. If we're working in building substructures, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, we're hoping 2 shifts, and then when we get to start up, so we're shutting things down, we have to shut down part of the Eastview facility. Then we're talking about a very serious, really staffing up 24/7 to get this started, and we're talking, 10 years from now. But that's not. It's for us, that's construction, but it's not what you think of as construction. It's really just getting this thing online. Okay, so you wanted to know where they were. So the Catskill kind of runs like this. The new tunnel that we're building, it'll come up here. This is the screen chamber, and the water will come from the intake chamber, the upper effluent chamber, into the screen chamber, and then this little bit here, that's a vent for the shaft. So it'll go down the shaft here, and then it runs across, actually kind of like this way. Yeah. So Catskill, the new one, and then the Delaware Aqueduct is over in this direction. So the third contract, we're constructing the screen chamber. So now this is existing Westlake Drive. It'll be close to the public at that point, and we have our police booth here. We're going to move it here, so we'll have a permanent police booth for entry to our site on existing Westlake Drive. And then you can see that temporary operations entrance, once I'm gone, we turn the site back over to operations fully. They'll start using this again, and that whole thing goes away. And then lastly we have a connection from shaft 18, the Delaware Aqueduct, to a vault for town water supply. We'll be building a second one connecting the new tunnel to the existing vault.
Which for the town is relatively important. The kind of area is relatively important. The water department.
Yeah, sorry.
Right now, the town only has one tap, one way to get water. There's no redundant system. Typically, and we've got more than 70 communities up and down our system that are on it. We always require, and it's always good practice, to have a redundant system. If you need to shut down your pipe, you have to clean it. It has a break. You need another way to get water and keep it going. So this will be the redundant line, a brand new redundant line that we're including in the project for the town water supply. So. I'm not sure if you would need to continue treatment. I know we do a boost treatment down at Hillview, but when it ends up in the city. Getting it from Eastview to your plant over here would be a very significant undertaking. It would be a new block tunnel that kind of would essentially be building or think with the hills.
Already kind of happening, and then taking it will then chlorinate it for longer, so it might be worse. I don't know. You want to get raw water earlier, and rather than finished water later, and then have to do it again. I think you have to figure out what in my opinion here that it might be worse, but certainly raise up the sound engineer and our water would
Yeah. Yeah. So during construction, we put up a construction fence. Town code requires a minimum of 8 feet for a construction fence. So that's what we'll have in place while we're constructing all of this. And then that last contract, a little hard to see, you can kind of see it here. We construct a permanent fence. I don't know if the final decision is 6 or 8 feet, but something in that range. And, that goes around the entire perimeter. And this presently, this is, you drive through here, but that would be gated and gated all along here. And then in 2 slides, I'll get to the goose, what we have in store for the geese. Well, yeah, I can't speak to that, but I can say that part of what we will do is we're restoring trees to town code, and we also have a state requirement for tree replacement. But yeah. Oop, sorry. Okay, so the last contract, the last phase that I'll talk about, this is not actually the last phase of the work. We actually start this, before we finish up everything, because it plays into our turning on of the new system. But it's shoreline stabilization and wetland mitigation. Sorry. So. The goal of this is to harden the shoreline. So we've already done some of this work on the western side of Kensico, on our Kensico site, and we're going to continue that up. So it's installing stone, riprap, we call it, to reduce the effect of a surface runoff, so water quality issues coming into our site. So we're going to be placing that. We're going to be doing some regrading, goose fencing. You'll see a picture of that. And then also we'll be doing some dredging in front of the intake for that UEC, that intake structure that we're going to be working on. And then finally, there's I don't know if you can see it clearly if you're driving past, but if you're going down the road, the other side of the water there, it's a turbidity curtain. So it's just laying, you can see the very top of it. So that protects us from Malcolm Brook. So any of the suspended solids coming in from Malcolm Brook, we have that curtain there in place so we don't suck it into our plant. So we'll be replacing that. And then we're talking, one shift, Monday to Friday. So here is rendering that building on the right. That's our intake structure, and then this riprap. So it's really just stonework, and then we have a short fence here, and the goal there is to prevent the geese from using our beachfront to hang about. So that it's. I didn't catch it. Maybe I didn't want to catch that. And then some security fencing there. And then we don't have a slide for it, but by doing this, we're impacting wetlands. So we're mitigating that by improving and creating wetlands within the watershed. Good on that? Yeah. Yeah. So this we have not presented this project to the planning board yet. So we presented the first phase of work at Kensico, and the steep slopes were, there were a number of locations within our aerator, so like that depressed area on both sides of our property have some steep slopes. And then, clearly if you can picture near the high school a little bit back, there's some steep slopes there that we have to deal with. So that's what those applications were for. Third. Yeah, so I'll orient you. So right now we're on a boat looking at Westlake Drive. So Westlake Drive is, it would be like here. High school is behind these trees. Yeah. Sorry, I should have made that it. So yeah, so that's where we're working. Okay, and you.
Yeah. So let me. I think those are the four. Those are the four phases. I just wanted to bring this chart back up to again try to tie it together for you because, again, the planning board was having trouble with this. I have trouble with it. One project, but the different contractors. It will be. There will be overlap of the projects that are getting done both at Eastview. So again, contract 1, 2, 3, and 4, still for the one purpose of building this tunnel. Let's see. So better if I go over here. I think we touched on a lot of this, but let me go through this again. I know that the town has recently adopted pretty much the gold standard of codes for blasting, which we will have to follow. So any blasting activities will be pursuant to town and all the requirements that are in the code. So which includes the pre-blast survey, the notifications that have to be made in the community, and the sirens that we have to use before and after the blast. So their second siren is usually an all clear. I think we covered the blast cover. The blast cover will reduce a lot of the noise. I've heard sirens for blasts where I haven't actually heard the blast afterwards. You'll hear the 3 sirens. It really depends on the amount of charge in the blast, how deep it is, and frankly, the mats will reduce quite a bit of the noise from the onset at the surface. Yep. Now, anecdotally, when I was growing up, elementary school, middle school, I lived in Manhattan. I was on the 11th floor, and I could look out my window. There was a 30 or 40-story apartment building built right next to me. I could watch the mats below me from my window. You hear the siren. You see the mat go up, boom, like just you see it rise a little bit like a heartbeat, and then it just falls right back. And the blasts weren't really the loud things. What was much louder were the sirens, and that was at surface. Again, this is a long time ago because I'm quite a bit older now, but it was surprisingly close now that I think of it, considering the conversation we've been having. Literally probably 200 feet out from my window and then 11 stories down, the blasting was taking place. So this blasting will be much further, but we will still be controlling a much larger area than was done back in the 1970s at this site in the city.
Bill, John, we all worked with these folks. These are 30-year engineering-focused individuals. They brought us the gold standard in Newburgh of interaction with the neighbors. So they had a dedicated person. There's phone numbers that you can call and somebody will pick up. It's not going to go to voicemail. If you have an issue after a blast, you're going to get someone on the phone. If you don't get someone at the site, you're going to get one of us here. You know, we're going to be very accessible to folks in the town. You know, we don't want Carl's phone ringing, supervisor's phone ringing all the time. We'd rather help you and get these things taken care of. So it's the same folks. We just went through this over the last 10 years in Newburgh. The tunnel boring machine, there was 0 complaints, 0 awareness it was even happening. The shafts, there was some. But the interactions were extremely high, and it's the same folks. I just wanted to add to that bullet that you know, John, get John's contact, and he will make sure you get the right individual. You know?
Oh, thanks. Oh, yes. Kevin, I think you'd be the expert on the extent for the shafts.
Yeah, I believe it's about a year or so. Yeah, we're talking months, not years and years and years.
We were anticipating 12 to 14 months, and I got done, I think it was 8.5 months. So you got to remember contractor process with it. They did it responsibly, and they want to get done, right? They want to press schedule. That went really fast and really well. We can't promise that. With the EIS, it's always trying to estimate the outward time frame, the outward number of trucks, the outward everything, but it always comes in line, right? If we have to assess how it is, so we'll talk about that. So I would anticipate a little bit more.
So there's the two sets of blasting. So while it's great that we have this competent rock, it actually makes it very hard to mechanically excavate it. So we might be looking at blasting for that, the Kensico, right? So that's something we have to look at. It's not a lot, but it is some, and that would be that's like the third chunk of work we're going to be doing in that first phase. That's sometime next year. The shafts, the blasts we're all really talking about are for the two shafts. We are taking bids on that contract tomorrow. We're hoping to start that one at the end of the year, but we'll see how the bids come in tomorrow. And then, so there's all that site work that we have to start first for that contract. So again, it would be sometime next year that we'd be starting on the shafts. We've got a bit of work to do before we can get started there. And we're going to start at Eastview, right? Because we've got to build the tunnel from Eastview to here. We've got more time here, so we're going to start at Eastview. And the benefit of doing that, among other things, is that we've gotten it right? That the contractor will be in the groove at Eastview where it's not as sensitive an area. Not that we don't care as much, because we do, but we'll have everything right before we move over to blasting here at Kensico. Okay, so sorry, your question is, what are we presenting to the planning board next month? Right, yeah, so nothing set in stone. So the application we have before the planning board now is the work at Eastview, and it includes the shaft and tunnel and the building. So we're hoping to present and move to public hearing next month, but that's not up to us. That's our hopes and dreams for that phase of work. We have just submitted the shafts work here for Kensico, so we only just submitted that to the town. So again, we're hoping to talk to the planning board next month, but we'll have to see how it goes.
So just a little bit about noise. I think this is still the same topic we've been talking about. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have vibration monitors throughout the construction sites at the perimeters. We're also going to have noise monitors. So if there are any exceedances or abnormal noises that we didn't anticipate, we will be able to address that with the contractors. We will see a notification. We'll get an alert. We'll know where it came from, and we can address it fairly immediately. So this was, and again, the noise levels and anticipated noise levels of the various contracts and various phases are studied throughout the EIS process, which Phil was in charge of. So some of the noise practices, I did want to just go through these, essentially best management practice, what we're going to do the best we can to minimize noise disturbance is obviously we have a plan in place, but The equipment that the contractors use, we're going to monitor that. We're going to make sure it's the most modern and properly maintained equipment that they can use. Engine housing doors will not be allowed to stay open. They can't just prop it open and maintain it and keep it running while they're looking at the spark plugs or such. So engine housings will stay closed. Compressors, generators, pumps, they all have to be covered. Noise insulating fabric will have to be used on those, just around the site at the various locations. Idling, we will strictly limit. We do this in the city with residents in their cars. We're going to do it on site. This is our property. We're responsible for it. I don't want to explain to you why we're letting somebody idle here while we go after somebody in the city who's idling their car. So not going to allow that with the contractors. Call me. I'll take care of it. Lower speeds, that does help with some of the noise. We're asking our contractors to maintain a low speed at site to reduce noise. The backup alarms, we're going to address some of the noise from those by using less loud backup alarms on the site. And again, if you're hearing any excessive noises that you wouldn't expect or that you're stunned by, give us a ring. We'll address it. I promise that. Little background, the secret process, again, that Phil was in charge of, it was a lengthy process. Starts with the town declaring a positive declaration that an EIS has to be done. We came out with this scope of work, everything we would be looking at, from noise levels to wildlife mitigations to forestry to plantings to wetlands to traffic studies. Did the public information sessions for that. Final EIS was issued last August. It is on file here at the library if that is something you would like to have a look through or a copy of. It's also online on our site. Fairly easy to find with Google if that's something. We did do a significant amount of public outreach. I wanted to include this slide. I know people at the public hearings for the planning board, there were some people, how am I first hearing about this now? Frankly, I think part of the problem is media has been kind of dissipating over the years. Daily newspapers aren't what they frankly used to be. I was a reporter in a former life. There have been several stories. They're old. The stories in the Westchester Journal News were in 2018 about DEP building this tunnel from Kensico to UV. There have been one or two stories since, but probably not the kind of coverage you would have seen in newspapers 10, 20 years ago. There was a public information session during COVID. It was an online public information session, and I believe a lot of people didn't even have awareness that that was going on. So I thought it was best that we do another one of these, and frankly, as we continue going, I want to do another, let the community get together. We'll go through this again a year or two from now, next year, just so you get an update how we are progressing through this project. Call us anytime. Don't wait for us to come back around. Really, if you have a question, if you have an issue, we will try to address it, or at least get you an answer. I got a call the other day about we haven't been mowing at an aqueduct property down in Yonkers. We had a crew out the next day, mowed around the facility that we have down there. We are very responsive, and we try to be. So I've briefed the entire student body at the Valhalla School District. Did a great presentation with the elementary students on this project. Did the high school students, did a school board appearance, a couple school board appearances. We've had separate conversations with the administration, so they're aware of all the timing of the projects that we're doing, the construction of Westlake Drive, how the parking lot that we're building for the school will be turned over. There will be lights at that parking lot. I just did an Earth Day presentation to the entire auditorium school group there, and we released a hawk, a maned hawk that we had rehabilitated. It's just something we continually do in the watershed. So we do try to be engaged, and If somebody says we didn't know about this, we haven't heard about this, please let me know, because I want to address that, and I'll go to any extent to make sure that the community is as aware as possible of everything that we're doing. So I'm sorry, yes. I'm not exactly sure the parcel you're talking about. I think you may be talking about, we have something called BMPs, Best Management Practices. We have 44 of them around the Kensico Reservoir. It's, I think, a 22-mile perimeter of shoreline. BMPs are essentially collection basins for small tributaries, runoff in the landscape around the Kensico. It can catch sediment before it gets into the Kensico, turbidity. No. There are. It's a large parcel. We do protect the water quality. Keeping forests healthy is a significant activity that we undertake to protect the water quality. Yes. Yes. Correct. No. We're close to done, but no, please don't stop. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. We have an easement for every parcel along the. They are compensated. Yes. Yeah. No, we're sorry. Mm-hmm. let me cover some of that. A couple of things that just stood out. No, I don't. I'm a liaison. The watershed was here before I was born. It'll be here long after. I'm here for the time being. I'm not taking it personally. And frankly, my whole background in government is working with communities, working with small and medium and large governments to solve problems, solve issues that impact residents and communities. That's why I got into government. The water you get it's the same water. The Kensico serves you, it serves the city. Doesn't get filtered, no. You do filter it, I believe. I don't, yes, you're not part of what's called the filtration avoidance determination. I think Mount Vernon, there's only about 2 or 3 communities, depending on where they are, where the EPA has actually allowed them to have a filtration avoidance. So Mount Pleasant has to filter. But it's the same water. It's, okay. Oh, so you have an FAD for no filter? Okay. All right. So good to know. But it's the same water. It's the exact same. And just on trees, when we plant quite a bit of trees. We did a project up in Ulster County that last Earth Day, and I'm proud of it because it was Earth Day. We planted 8,000 trees on a site that was a lake. It was actually a reservoir, not our reservoir, but it was a reservoir. We reclaimed the river. We took a dam down, so we turned the lake back into a river, and the entire lake we've replanted. Part of the contract is monitoring that, protecting every single one of those plantings. I believe it's for a 2-year period to make sure they are fully integrated into, yeah. I think there's, yeah, please. There is so. Yep. Few different.
Right. There'll be different locations, but if we look at the Kensico campus itself, so there are roughly 18 acres of forested land there. We will take roughly 13 acres will be cut down. We'll replace roughly 6. So overall, there will be, and I may not have done the math right there, but there'll be roughly 9 acres of net loss, right? Because we'll cut down a bunch of trees. We will replace a number of them in that area, but overall, because of the construction of this major infrastructure that we have to do, the critical infrastructure that will supply 9 million people, we will have a net loss of 9.3 acres of forested land. In order to mitigate for that, so what we're going to do is forest enhancement of 18.6 acres around the reservoir. So the forest that extends to the north in some of the other DEP lands in the area, we'll be doing invasive species removal. We'll remove trees that are, unhealthy. There'll be some replanting, but the overall idea is to refurbish and enhance the forest habitat that is there. And so that'll. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right, and so if you can go to one of the renderings, so those areas, though they will not necessarily be fully reforested, they will be planted, and there'll be herbaceous species and shrubs, plants, and then meadow in where you see the grassy area.
Just to touch on your comment about the trailers. So, yes, sorry. So we're going to have our this is Kensico. So we're looking kind of northwesterly. You can see the towers and the reservoirs back here, right? This is Westlake Drive, Columbus. Our trailers are going to be in this area here, where all this pretty, the shrubs and the meadow mix and all that is. So when we come to that final restoration, our contracts have 2 years of, we call it an establishment period. Dan just touched on that, where we have to make sure everything is viable. And then after that 2 years, we have a 1 year guarantee period. So we have 3 years of growing, making sure that this is viable. We've got to get those trailers out of the way before we can start that clock. Yes, so we have a number of different projects going on. Some of them are short-lived, and the trailers you see up there now are for a contract that just finished, and then another contract that's going to be starting up. So we do have improvements beyond this that are necessary. So there will be potentially cycling of trailers, but the ones that we're putting in here, they have to go. Before. Right. So those are not part of the projects I'm working on, but I understand they're much shorter lived than the contracts that I'm working on. So I expect to see them go in my project lifetime. Yes, the headquarters.
Waterfowl here is trailer here too, I think it is. Yeah, so that it will, right. So we're actually trying to build some buildings to replace the trailers that we're using. Hillview, I know all the trailers at Hillview are going to be obsolete once we do this next 10-year project down at Hillview. The police are using a trailer for a precinct at the Hillview campus. They're getting a whole new precinct down on McLean Avenue. Right now we have a trailer at Kensico, that's our wildlife staff. We're building a building for the wildlife program. We'll make that trailer not necessary. And that's part of these contracts. The wildlife building is the wildlife separate? That's so. Oh, yeah. That absolutely. And some of our properties have been using, 100%. And frankly, the reservoirs are gorgeous. Some of the structures that are historic and on the reservoirs are gorgeous, and we do have these trailers. I think that's one of my biggest complaints. We are trying to get rid of them. During construction projects, though, because they're very temporary, contractors do bring trailers in for administrating the contracts. And for us, as we've just kind of evolved with some of the infrastructure that we've been building, we will put a trailer for administrative purposes, and often we can't get the capital outlay to replace that, frankly, quick enough sometimes. But In front of the dam, that's the county. We can take a look at that. Matt? Matt had to leave. Yes, sir. Sure. What? Do you know? Yeah, you know some of this history.
I know the history on this. I know the history on it. So the UV plant was built because the rules changed, right? We ended up having to do two-stage filtration, so that plant became a focus need. We started the planning for the Catskill part, which like you said, can't flow up through it, right? It's been known, right? But as we started advancing the UV plant, we knew about that problem, and rather than just patch the Catskill aqueduct and make it pressurized to flow up through the plant, we started a very. We were in the background. We did a huge internal planning effort, right? So we assessed not only the pressurization of the Catskill aqueduct. We looked at many different options, and when the plant was being constructed, we started concluding internally as an agency what would be the best option for the future of the water supply, which rolled up into a deep rock pressure tunnel with a capacity that would match future demand needs. So that's why it's a bigger tunnel than the Catskill today. The Catskill's roughly 700 or 800. Yep. Yeah. So, Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I think what you're accentuating is the importance of the tunnel project, right? Now we really need to move this forward. Right. And just to say, the Catskill Aqueduct still does exist. If we need it today, we can turn it on. It just won't flow through that UV step. We can add chlorine to it. We can turn it on. We can send it to the city like it always has been. It's still there. When we're done with the new tunnel, we can still move water through that Catskill. The Catskill will stay there. It'll go through the cemetery. It's not going away. It's a bypass. The deep top tunnel will be underneath it at depth. Both are going to stay. We issued a new EIS for the tunnel. It's all been covered in the EIS. We've been very forthcoming about the tunnel. The UV plant was maybe Phil, you want to take it, but that was constructed and completed, and then we created a new project.
But my understanding, so the EIS for the UV plant did discuss the pressurization of the Catskill, but as an alternative, and it also regardless, so we presented that, right, and the potential impacts and the effects of that plant, of the UV plant, were disclosed, and now we are disclosing the new project. So under seeker, we have, we've met muster. We're meeting both the intent and the letter of the regulations. So. Yeah, I mean, it was built and completed.
Question.
No, good point. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Now we're here because we're about to start this work with you.
I'm responsible, I'm the director, I'm responsible for everything. The protection of the people in this town, their property, and everything else, including you guys and
The school. It's the schools. The parking lot is.
Paramount and frequent. I'm sorry to talk stuff. You're going to have to meet. You're going to have to. We're going to learn for you to meet with us frequently. We're going to invite you to the site. You need to interact with not only you but with the ambulance corps too.
We work with when you guys are building that work tomorrow. Yeah. We work very well with you guys. We've been and after the plant is done, we still work very well.
And that's going to be the same.
No.
We never had an issue with this is coming in. Nobody's going to. I just feel that that's what. But the way you go about it, don't quality of life. The people in this town don't want all this. They just want to know. They don't want to know, what the water is doing here. They want to know what's going on for the construction. And they want to know what's going on. So do we. And we want to know what's going on. The electric building. What's being here?
I don't think there's any argument. I know that we were talking about this during the town meeting today. I think we're going to be.
No, you guys are very important to this. And the ambulance corps as well, the town building department, there's very high need to interact frequently with you. I don't want to say that back together.
And just one point, and
Let's schedule a meeting.
yeah, no, let's definitely. Let's definitely schedule a meeting, but one thing I do want to kind of bring up, and I'm going to be a little sensitive about it, the school will be looking at this project directly for the next 10 years. These children in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade are going to go through an entire school career listening to the construction going on, the blasting, seeing the heavy equipment. I will bend over backwards to explain any of it to them and make sure that they have an understanding and appreciation for the engineering and the water supply system, and any of their questions or interests in it, I want to make sure it get answered. So that it's a critical briefing to the school. It's also critical that we meet with, cooperate, work with, understand each other with the fire department as well as the other emergency services. But we have been in constant contact with the school. I know our construction engineering department is in continual touch. I am with Mr. McLeod, the superintendent, as well as Mr. Shafris, I believe, who's the curriculum development superintendent for the school district. We did Earth Day there. We released a hawk, and we'll continue a pretty good partnership with that school just to get them through this contract. And frankly, it's the closest school to the Kensico, closest to pretty much any reservoir we have. I don't know of another school district with facilities that close to any of our facilities. And letting the kids know some opportunities, some of the science behind it, the importance of water in the cycle, and frankly, it integrates a lot with some of their curriculum. So that it is critical that we continue that process. So a couple other quick things. I do want to show some. I think we've gone through most of this, the EIS and SECR process. We discussed some of the traffic mitigation. We are doing a further traffic study. Then we're starting a warrant, what's called a warrant analysis of the new relocated Westlake Drive, whether a traffic signal is warranted. So those numbers are going to be turned and analyzed, and we'll continue working with local, state, and federal jurisdictions. It's a county road. So if the numbers justify it, we will absolutely work with the county and town to make sure that there's a light. But we need the federal manual on uniform traffic control devices to guide that decision-making process. And just some quick views of the new site, well, not new, it's 10 years away. This is the big shaft 18 we've been talking about, where the treatment is mainly right now. The new, well, this is the lower effluent chamber. This is the current existing conditions. The current Westlake Drive. The new road will be here by the transmission lines, and this road will stay within the confines of the, yeah, if you could. That's the current Westlake Drive. It's a town road right now. One of the conditions that we're going to be taking care of is this will now be within our property. The town will have the easement. They will get the new road. Once it's finished, it will be brand new, well built, good foundation, all new asphalt. And this will be our issue to deal with instead of the town having to deal with that. If you can just quickly go next. Ultimately, Columbus Avenue here, this car is driving north on Columbus. This will be the new Westlake Drive. I don't know if you can see it from the back. You can see the transmission lines further back. That would be the new gate chamber, screen chamber, I'm sorry. You drive into Westlake Drive, the parking lot entrance for the student lot will be here. The Valhalla High School is right here. Football field in the back there, showing some of the new plantings. And this is it in plan form. Valhalla High School up here, Columbus Avenue, and the new Westlake Drive there. And here you can see with the new Westlake Drive, or relocated Westlake Drive, the perimeter fencing, the new decorative perimeter fencing after the construction fencing will line the entire site again. It will be brand new. A lot of the fencing that's there now, the wrought iron, some of it's getting rusted, starting to look worn. It hasn't been kept up as much as I would like. That will all be brand new at the end of the project. So that's the parking lot that the students are going to have. The school is getting an easement. They will be responsible for the lot once it's turned over to them. And the sidewalk will connect around to the entrance of the school right next door. You can go to the next one. I think we showed this a little while ago. The current Westlake Drive, this will be the police guard booth entry. That's the proposed screen chamber, so this will be built. That is a rather large building. The existing lab, I think that's the electric building, I'm not positive. The existing effluent chamber, not as big as the current shaft 18, which is over here. Again, Valhalla High School here. The Kensico is in the background. I think next one. Just a couple of things. One thing I find, our watershed is 2,000 square miles. We have infrastructure throughout it. It's the size of the state of Delaware. Dozens of towns, cities, villages that we work with, communities, different congressional districts throughout, east side, west side, some rural, some very conservative, some very progressive, everything you can imagine. Often I keep hearing DEP, yeah, everything you do, you buy some land, you take it off the tax rolls. I want to be clear, Mount Pleasant is, we pay 100% of the assessed value on all of our property. All of the infrastructure that we build, that's not the actual conveyance tunnels. So the dam, 100% of assessed value. The reservoir itself, 100% of assessed value. We're the #1 taxpayer in the town. Mount Pleasant, by far, is the #1 municipality receiving taxes from DEP, $5.5 million a year, just for the town. Another $20 million goes to the school districts that are within the town. So 100% of assessed value. We are not tax exempt. Just somehow Delaware County keeps thinking we're exempt. Next one, quickly. Again, just to reiterate, we're almost at the end, and we absolutely will stick around for questions. A few of the benefits that the town will be getting. Brand new Westlake Drive, which will be turned over to the town. Quite a bit better condition than the current Westlake Drive. School parking lot, the school, I can't tell you how excited they are. The school board, every single one of them, thrilled about it. They're happy the students will be parking closer. Right now, on the current Westlake Drive, most of the cars during the day, during the school year, those are all students who park there. The frontage, once this project will be done, or is done, will be quite a bit nicer than what it looks like right now. with the aerator areas, the plantings, the new fence line, and the new, more decorative security fence around the outside. Forest mitigation, which I think Phil already addressed. Again, it's a 2-to-1 mitigation ratio. So the net loss of the 9 acres, we do then go to, we double that with the mitigation practices, so 18.8 acres of creating healthy forests, some planting, some culling to make sure that there's diversity within the forest. Forests are extremely important for water quality. They do a tremendous amount of work filtering the rain and runoff coming into the reservoirs. Some of our reservoirs have a 200 to 300 square mile basin. It's called the watershed. It's kind of the bowl of water runoff from the hills around it that flows into them. Having a healthy forest is critical to our mission of providing the best quality water possible to half the state's population. We are providing a new tap, so the town will now have 2 taps redundancy, critical for the town's supply. And we are going to rebuild Walker Road after we have the heavy trucks using it and making, because Walker Road's a little rough shape too, and that's over on the Eastview side. So I think that is it. One more quickly. All right, I have cards here. This is my direct office line. That's my cell and my email. Please, really feel free. I'm in pretty good terms with most of the residents around Hillview and the homeowners associations down there. Great working relationship. They've had concerns. We do address them. Issues with, I'm sorry, yes. Oh. Issues with some of the pointing, the masonry work on some of the walls going around. We get there. I had a lady call me the other day about a tree that we didn't trim enough and it's still hanging over the road and it can brush the top of cars. Had a crew out there pretty quickly. We're not perfect, but we can operate once communications are established and you reach out to us, we will have an answer for you as to when we're going to get there and do it or why we can't do it. And I think just making that phone call is going to go a long way in getting through this and continue. Yes, sir. Let's.
Now we have a contractor. You typically don't interact at any of our projects with the fire or DR and some contractors on the board. We've just got them on board. You see how well we work with them. Well, we want you involved. I mean, there's a rescue component, there's a fire component. What I was just reminding asking Kevin, and I wanted to say here was, we're tunneling, right? We're not going to expect Valhalla to train up and go below ground and rescue people. That's on us. No, the only thing is that you guys with the project itself, you're doing the more than one other piece of your we're concerned with going on and trying to putting up your building, the mining sector, water. That's what we look at when we get through. So you have meetings with the town, so you have to let the town. Well, we're working with Sal, the building inspector, on all of the compliance. So we're building compliance structures, right? And we haven't heard anything about it. Okay. We're happy to sit down and look at it. So we met with the town of Mount Pleasant, and we said we're fine. We weren't put on the back.
I'll tell you, let's commit, let's fix this. We will get a meeting together with your entire commission and your chiefs, and we will.
And
bring in.
Not just at the front of the project. We like to do exercises if the locals are willing. So, okay, let's stage an event at our construction site and have you participate and see what the response is once a year for the duration of construction. We want our CM, which Kevin is in charge of here, and our contractor, to be really well synced to the local units, police, fire, and be supportive of that and understand what you have, what you need. So there is a million components on that. Trust me, we just haven't had a chance to set up the first meeting yet, but we're hearing you loud and clear. Kevin's going to take that back. He's going to get in touch with you. We're going to set it up. So.
And that is the slide deck. Anyone need to see any of them? I'm happy to scan back. And please, any additional questions? We're all here. There's a variety of expertise that we can try to address. And for Lenny's sake, I'll try to remember to keep passing the microphone around. So, yes, sir. And that's the changing the contracts that are already essentially there is a significant undertaking in a municipal capital project. But if we use it for any construction activities, if there's a concern that you rebuild it now and we have trucks running over it potentially, we should absolutely coordinate on that. But let me, are you familiar with this area at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, no, this is for that. And on Columbus, one thing I forgot to add that was really on Columbus was large box culverts. You might see one of them had some. Thanks, John. One of the box culverts had some structural issues. We're going in and we're fixing that just to stabilize it. I think they're owned by the county. But we want to make sure that road is solid for us and the community. The Lakeview issue, John, and I'll take that back. You know, if there's anything related to the project, like road wear, we're very good about making sure we leave no trace. We don't want to damage a road and not fix it. We are allowed to use roads naturally, so just like the regular public, right? But if there's a short segment that we're using and it's obvious, yeah. I guess if we could talk after and figure out exactly what you're talking about, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have a robust stormwater management plan, very robust. We self-regulate we have an internal group that regulates all of our stormwater compliance, our regulatory engineering program, and it's really high bar. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about where it is and we'll take it back. Yeah.
I think most of it's already on. And Jim, I think 95% of the slide deck is already on the town site from when we did the planning board, I believe. I'm not positive. Let me check. Yeah. No, makes sense.
One thing, a public hearing. Public hearings typically, and Jim, we had a great conversation last night. Thanks for all your comments, and this is something we talked about, Kevin. The public hearing notifications, we have additional public hearings. Supervisor's office asked us to go above and beyond for those mailings. The timing came a little close to the last public hearing, but now we're out here. You're going to know when the next public hearing is for the tunnel, all the tunnel work. Typically, we mail to adjacent property owners. So you have a project, you have a property. The adjacent properties need to get a certified mailing. We did 650 mailings at the request of Sale and Supervisor Fulgenzi. He really wanted you all more so to get letters. So to his credit, it was a massive mailing. It went out to a lot of people. Jim, you asked me that yesterday, so I wanted to bring it here. We're going to do the same thing for the next public hearing. We put a sign out front. You know, we really want people to come to these public hearings. This is a public information session meant for more informal, casual conversation, and it's not part of that record. So our public hearings that happen, we hope we've answered a lot of your questions and your concerns will be answered so that you don't feel the need to necessarily come and not know what's going on. We want you to know what's going on before the next one, but you know, I just wanted to say, rather than just the adjacents, we did 650 mailings. You know, your supervisor asked for it, and we said sure. So,
yes, ma'am. Hmm? I believe we have the numbers. We've been doing that. We just have to do the analysis and finalize that. Yeah. Yeah. You had that? Okay.
Yeah, so that was the forefront in our mind as well. You know, we know that there is kids getting dropped off and all of that, so we made sure to take traffic counts, not a holiday week, but while school is in session, so we captured that activity, and it was, you know, over days and throughout the day. So we did capture the, you know, the morning rush, if you will. Yes.
And is there any way that you can push this through? I mean, I know that you're doing the warrants, but for many years I've asked that we have the school zones over there in front of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always that it didn't meet the warrants. It didn't meet the requirements of the county or the state. You don't need to have something tragically happen. I mean, it is very bad. You're going to allow a left-hand turn on West Lake Drive, line of sight there, traffic going south now too far. So if there's any way to push this through before we have something tragically happen there, I think we should do that as, you know, as a town and as, you know, the project.
Okay. I appreciate that. DEP is, if the warrant study does determine that there is sufficient or is a potential need for it, we're not opposed to covering the cost and putting in the lights. But the county does have input. It is their road, and ultimately we do have to rely on the warrant study for just traffic control purposes. And I know it's a lot more involved than just the numbers. But yes, no, we're not absolutely not opposed to putting a light in and covering that cost and making that part of the project. So, yes. That it? Anyone a Yankee fan? No. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming out. Got some business cards. I've got some one-pagers. I think the town also has these online, but did have a few left over if you want to grab just kind of a brochure on the project. Oh.